So today on Last Meal on Earth, we've got Andrew Bernard, who is a actor. He's a presenter and somewhat singer as well. So we'll dive in with a number of questions about your background to start with, if that's okay. To
Sure.
get a bit of background about yourself, where were you born? Where did you grow up? And where are you living now?
That's a very good question. Right, okay, so where was I born? I was born in a place called Malden, Maldon, Malden in Essex. It is, I'm born and bred on a farm. I pretty much lived on a farm all my life, really. Um, and that's really why I have such a, if you like, an affinity with animals, because I've had pets from cats, dogs, to donkeys, to chickens, to geese. So, hence the reason I don't eat meat. But for me, obviously, that was my background. And from there, I fell into modeling. Now, I probably don't think that now when you look at me, but when I was 2021, I think I was okay. And I fell into modeling. And I have to say, I kind of enjoyed it, really. I found it quite therapeutic. Back then, it wasn't quite as intimidating, perhaps is the word I'm going to use, as it is today, where everything has to be perfect and perfect. Back then, it was kind of cool how you were. And I kind of liked it. And then somebody said, you're really good at what you do. Have you ever thought about becoming an actor? And I didn't really. But then I went to my local Andram, a place where I live, and I did a few bits with them. And then I signed up for a 3 year training with them, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then I went off and did a few bits and pieces, but I felt really I was okay, but I needed more. I needed more, if that makes sense to you. So I went on to do Central in London, London School of Speech and Drama in London. So it was for me a big learning curve there. And it's funny because lots of people say that when you go to drama school that you come out brilliant. But for me, if I could be very honest, I
Yes.
think that you go to a drama school and they remove, it's almost like deleting a computer. They delete everything that you think you should have and your own input, and they then reprogram you to that. Now, that may have changed. I am going back 20 years, of course, that may
Yes.
have changed, but it was a clone that came out of the drama schools. And well, I was very lucky. I fell into some very, very good work. I went and lived in America for a while and had a fantastic time out there doing General Hospital and a few other bits and pieces. And then having family here, I had to come back because I had a son, and I had to come back. Really, I couldn't live a nomad life out there, so I came back, and really from there I have been very blessed, and I mean that hand on heart. For the last 25 years, apart from a couple of years where I chose to leave the profession, I've really just kept myself afloat. I've got a lovely girlfriend at the minute, been with her 10 years. She's a doctor. And for myself right now, I live in a little village called Hadley, and it's right on the borders of Leigh-on-Sea. And if you could look out my window, I just look across fields and the sea. It's
Lovely.
it's very, very pretty.
So, where do you think you might be if you hadn't had that conversation and were directed into acting? Where do you think you might have turned up?
I would have been one or two things. I would have been either A, a vet, or B, a pilot. They're the only two things that really light my fire. And I remember because I wanted to be a pilot, and they said, "Well, why didn't you come down for a trial day and see if you like it?"
Yeah.
And I forget how much it was, but anyway, so I went to the Biggin Hill, going back a while now, at Biggin Hill when I lived in Kent, and I went to the training school, and they took me round the plane and blah blah blah. Anyway, so I sat in the chair, and I've got the wheel here. And of course, he said, now follow the yellow line down there, because he was the pilot, I was only the coach.
Yes, yes.
And I'm trying to turn it, and it wouldn't turn. Well, of course, you operate with your feet.
Yeah.
So, that was my first big learning curve. But I don't know, really. For me now, I fell in the profession, and I think, yeah, I would have been one of those two, most likely a vet, because my passion for animals and my care for them is probably more than humans. Dare I say that? Because I think they're just amazing, amazing creatures.
So taking each aspect of what you do, what has been your favorite role in each of them? And if there's any particular character that you've liked to have played or you have played.
Well, I played a diversity, and if you look at my shows on TV, my presenting shows, I mean, I dress up as a French chef, I dress up as a cleaner, I dress up as a lady, I dress up as mafia. I mean, I love character acting. I love to be a character that I'm not when I'm sat here. Anything but anybody but me. And maybe some people watching this right now say, well, that's typical of an actor hiding behind the mask. He can't be his own self. But maybe that's what acting is about. Maybe it is about hiding behind that character of somebody you feel you can let go of, as opposed to. But then I'm going to turn the coin right over and say, yeah, yes, I played some amazing characters. And I couldn't really pick one, Martin, to be very honest with you, because every job is different. Every director, every producer, and every character I play, or every part I play, I've loved everyone. And of course, I'd like more and more and more and more. But it's spice of life. We don't know when the ladder will end and how many rungs we can go up, and if there's any rungs missing on our way up that we're sort of platform because we can't reach the next one. It's a minefield. But yeah, I guess for me now, falling into presenting, where I teach that now. I teach presenting, and it is a vulnerability that very few people can ever experience when you're presenting, especially live TV, which is what I'm doing. There is not even a hair's width of error can you make in that, because they look right into the heart of your soul, if that makes sense.
Well, it's a profession where you have to think on your feet. You have to
And
be very responsive to any eventuality,
yeah,
I suppose which makes it fun as well. So if you had a situation where you could work and live exactly where you wanted to, what sort of role would you love to have? Or, if there's any other role that somebody's had, that
I
would be perfection.
I guess really as an actor, I would love to have a role in maybe an ongoing soap, something where I could be, could be the bad boy, but I also like to be the good boy. But a role in a soap would really be something I would really really enjoy to do. On the presenting front, I am absolutely addicted to Car SOS. I don't know if you ever watch it, but
Yes.
having got my son does motocross. He's very, very, very good at it. And having done car mechanics and bike mechanics, and I'm his mechanic when we go racing for many, many, many years. And I watched Car LS, and I think that Tim Shaw, I would love to do his job. If ever he retired, I have the knowledge he has, and I have the craziness when I see him do some of the things. I think that's just what I do. But that would be two roles. I don't need to be Robert De Niro. I don't need to be doing Tom Hanks movies. I think my days for that are probably gone now. I'm a bit too old for it. But
Well, I mean, you've got a lot of actors that actually move through the ages.
correct.
There are a number of dames out there who have worked in every single, 20s, 30s, all the way to 80s.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
you can't rule it out, can you?
Maybe there's room for me at the top.
So what is your process in becoming that particular character? Because even with presenting, you probably have to be a certain character for what you're trying to present. So how do you get into that particular zone?
It's a really good point. And for me, for some people watching right now, they'll probably go, well, that isn't very professional, Mr. Bernard. How you can do it? But I actually have for acting, yes, I rehearse, I rehearse, I rehearse, I play, I change, I alter. And the director, to be fair, finally will have a more input, and then I will mold and play with that. But for presenting, I go in with a I don't really care attitude. And I know some people will find that maybe a bit offensive. Oh, well, surely you must know what you're doing. Of course, you know what you're doing. But if you go in with, oh, like that, you become nervous, you become twitchy, you become blinky, you become weavy, all
Mm.
the things that happen. I go in there with, it doesn't matter. I just want to be me. I want to have some fun in front of the television and I want to enjoy myself. And from that, I build my audience, I build my reputation, or have today built what I've done.
So going forward, what strengths do you have which makes your job easier to carry out and, yeah, effectively showcase yourself?
What strengths do I have? None really. None. I'm just really. I'm a master of none, but a jack of all trades. You know, I've got farm life. I've learned so
Yeah.
much on the farm. I've got three older brothers that have diversified into travel, into manufacturing, into that. I've been in the car industry, the bike industry, and the horse riding, and doing professional show jump. I'm just very lucky that
Yes.
I've done, and I am. People always refer to me as a sponge. I absorb very quickly information and knowledge that I believe I can retain and, dare I use the word, spit out should
Yes.
I require it down the line. So, you know, I don't really have any specific skills apart from maybe a bit of DIY when the late but great, amazing Harry Green, which was Sarah Green's father, he and I had a Sunday show that we used to do, and it was DIY, and that was amazing. But yeah, I just kind of, I'm always looking, I'm always learning.
So who is the most famous actor or actress that you've worked with?
Whew. Well, I've been very lucky in America. I've met many, many brilliant actors, and that's just part of, the Hollywood scene, if you like. You go for coffee, and lo and behold, there's Arnold Schwarzenegger, or bless God rest her soul, when she was alive, Whitney Houston, and I remember stopping in a property while I was working on some work out there, and I didn't know this. I had no idea of LA or Hollywood. It was all new to me, and I was all a bit lost and a bit feeble. But there I was in this beautiful place, and looking over the fence there was Madonna. I was right next door to Madonna. Well, not the next door, but backing
Yes.
onto. Back then, she may have moved now, but at the time then, it was her property. So working with people, yeah, I worked with Whitney Houston when she was alive. I've, some very lovely people. I don't know if I really want to name names because it sounds a
Mhm.
bit big-headed, but just some really lovely, honest, genuine, and some of them now quite famous actors.
Okay, that's interesting. Um, do you have to support yourself when you're not doing your profession? And like a lot of actors, they are jobbing actors. I mean, do you actually, are fortunate enough to fall into another role so you don't have to have that other sort of way of pulling in income?
That's a really good question. Um, if you in the 28, 30 years I've been in the industry, uh, dry periods, lean periods, call them as you wish. 2 years I took out, that was my own doing, and I opened up a company into renewable energy. And I left the industry because I got fed up with the, dare I tell you, the absolute empty cardboard boxes. They promise you everything's in there and then open it up, nothing inside. I'm fed up to the back teeth with lies, promises,
Mm.
And I just thought, I'm out. I came out the industry, and I opened my own renewable energy company because, a few years ago, that was very, very much on point. And I thoroughly have to say it did me a lot of good. Again, I learned an awful lot, and I made great money. But in answer to your question, I've been very fortunate. I have never had to subsidize my way of life for another job. Presently, I do very well where I am at the minute. I do have other things. When you say do I support, but they're in the industry. So yeah, I'm just starting a company online with my management of teaching, presenting. That's going to be another little thread. I've just got a guy from India that wants me to do some videos for him. So, but they're all within the industry, if that makes sense. So
Yes, yes.
sure, I work in my 15 days a month at the channel I'm doing now with my shows. But outside of that, in the industry, I do get approached, and I'll do corporate or voiceover work, or I'll do, just little gigs, something.
Mm-hmm. I mean, can you expand on a project that you're working on at the moment, or is that pretty confidential?
No, I can expand it. You may remember I got a very bizarre phone call a couple of weeks ago, and it was from a guy, a very, very established company in India. And he Zoom called me, a bit like we're doing now, really. And he was asking, he said, I've seen your work, seen what you've done. Would you be interested in putting together and filming an infomercial to go onto Sky platforms? Well, I've done a fair few in the past, and I know the format. So I connected with lots of my friends, people I know that know about Clearcast, that know about ASA ruling, that know about the parameters that you can do.
Yes.
And so we're that now. It's all about renewable energy. Would you believe it? He owns a massive, massive solar company that are length and breadth of the UK, and he wants to do a, if you like, promotional campaign. It doesn't sell much, but it is quite involved of website, TV, exhibitions, shows, seminars, which I will be the main man hosting all of those for him.
So would that be primarily on the internet directly, or would it be live presentations?
Both.
Uh,
So it'll be YouTube, it'll be on the internet, it'll be live shows, it'll be live presentations, and of course a TV infomercial, which will only be maybe a 1 minute long or 10 minute long, where they'll have it on one of the lower Sky platforms where, you've seen the adverts, I'm sure
yeah.
you've seen them on there. They have it for a bed, and they have it for a nicer chopper and all that. It'll be something on those lines, but just repeating, and people just pick up the phone if they fancy.
So going back more of the mental side, I mean, what is the best aspect of your profession? Because normally you've got I mean, you've probably got a traditional boss, which is your probably the producer or director, and other people have a 9 to 5 situation, or more traditionally 8 till 6. So what is the best bit about the being an actor, presenter, and a singer?
I think for me, I love being in front of the camera. I love being in front of a live audience and looking at their facial expressions when I've done live gigs. I mean, I did the Most Haunted tour with Ian Lorman, and going down into the audience with a microphone. Some people are a bit against, psychics, but Ian was incredibly talented. And I remember, I don't know if this be of an interest, but I remember when I did a show with Ian, go back a few years, and we went to a theatre, and it was quite busy actually. Anyway, he said, I'm drawn to this lady over there. Anyway, so I nestled my way through, and I stood up, almost sat on her lap, bless her. Anyway, and I had the microphone, and I just listened to what Ian said, and I would open the show, and we have Q&A, blah blah blah. Anyway, so he was talking about it, and he was going through certain things, and you could tell the lady was perhaps not skeptical, but just wasn't really a big believer. Anyway, he then went on to say, and Ian went on to say, he said, I can't work this out, but I've got somebody here that is calling your name, and they're called Lloyd. Um, but it's not a man; it's a woman,
Oh, okay.
and he's asking you to. She's asking you to go into your bag and bring out the pendant you brought with you. Well, lo and behold, I'm now sat there with this woman, and she brings this pendant out, and I'm crying now because it really affected me. Even now, I get choked up thinking about that because she didn't know what to say. The tears were coming down, and he got it spot on. And I think, when you get a reward like that from, doesn't matter what it is, an accolade, a reward for something you're doing, and you actually see it happening, and it's real, and it's there. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy the thrill of it. I enjoy the people. I enjoy my directors, my producers. We're just a family of lovely people. Not all. Some would be a bit naughty, but that's life.
So let's step back a bit and have a look at your downtime, your hobbies. I mean, you've started to tell us about some of your hobbies being DIY and a sort of a car mechanics or sort of a restoration. Could you expand on other hobbies and other interests that you have outside of
Yeah, I mean,
doing?
I love traveling. Who doesn't? I'm very fortunate enough to be able to travel, not only with my work, but also I was in India last year in Jaipur doing a documentary with the current channel. And what I learned, what I saw, and the people I work with, phenomenal. So traveling is one. My family, my son is a very good motocross rider. So I enjoy the dirt, the grime, the muck of doing that at a weekend. I did professional horse riding for many, many years. Show jumping, I did that. I really enjoyed it. So I that would be my hobby. Sadly, my horse is no longer with me. But anything, things I don't I guess don't enjoy are things like golf. I have no passion for golf whatsoever. Football, I'm sorry, I'd rather paint a door and sit and watch it dry than get into football. I know we're all different. I do like anything that is a bit wild, like with an engine. I enjoy tennis occasionally. I like watching Formula One. I like watching road racing. That's my hobbies. And if I'm having downtime, that would be just an afternoon going out with my young lady, just enjoying her company. We go and do things together, and just enjoying life.
So moving away, I mean, if you're if you want to relax with music, or you want to change your mood because you're going for the next gig, what would you play to get you in that sort of framework?
If I just, I love classical music, but for me, I would probably, any West End shows, I would put those on. Any well-known arias from opera, I would just have them playing, and I can just chill and relax. Maybe read my book, maybe just get on with paperwork if I need to do any. I'm not into rap. I'm not into this modern pop culture. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't enjoy the modern music. I do, but I think it's kind of lost where we need to be. And I'm not trying to dictate to anybody. But you look at pop stars now. They're wearing virtually no clothes. I mean, if you just take
Yes, 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 yes.
the what we call it, Eurovision Song Contest that was on last week, whatever it was. I mean, I'm not here to make judgment or make any calls, but when you look at what they're wearing, it's got nothing really to do with the music anymore. It's who's going to wear and be the most outrageous in front of the people. The music has a bit to do with it, but it's kind of gone everywhere, isn't it now?
Yes, I suppose from a layman's point of view, it's trying to get your photograph in the paper or on the
Correct.
internet. So,
Yeah.
and from a film, theatre, and concert perspective, I mean, if you could tell me a little bit more about your interest in those, I mean, do you like sitting down and watching a series, or are you planning to go down to the theatre to actually immerse in that sort of one-to-one experience, or do you like to actually go to the concert to feel the buzz of the experience of sort of really sort of heavy speakers and sound displays and all the pyrotechnics?
I guess really, it's a good question. I mean, I used to go to the theatre every month. But they're expensive now, aren't they? But used to go to the theatre every month. Why? Because I think it was good to keep. I had friends in it as well, and I'd always, make a point of hooking up with them afterwards. But I go to the theatre now. I guess really, we probably go maybe 3 or 4 times a year to go and see a show. TV wise, I've got some absolutely favourites in. I mean, I'm a big fan of Shawshank Redemption. I love Mrs. Doubtfire, Lucy. There's some real classic movies that I could watch over and any Tom Hanks movie. I love those. But series wise, my young lady is Turkish, so watch a lot. They're all English dubbed or put out, but I watch a lot of Turkish um, series and films. And for people probably watching right now, don't really. But you know what? The acting and the quality is phenomenal. I mean, they're on Netflix, of course,
Yeah.
but it's phenomenal. I'm currently watching Queen of the South. It's a little violent, I have to be honest with you, but I'm currently watching Queen of the South, which I don't know if you've seen it on Netflix, have you?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Yeah. It's a little violent, but I've kind of got into it, and I sat up last night till about 2 o'clock in the morning. I can't stop watching. I'm one of these people. If I pick up a book and I start reading it, I can't put it down till I finished it. So I'm a bit like that with TV, really. I do probably get on my young lady's nerves more times than not because I'm not watching a TV series. But I just switch off, and I've got no worries, no care. I don't watch that TV. Some of it's pretty rubbish, I get it, but that's you know.
So, is there any visual media that you've watched in the past where it's changed your direction? It sort of changed your thought pattern to say, well, yes, I want to get into that, or I want to move, I want to steer to that area, or I want to avoid something.
What media? I mean, I have to say, you can't really believe much in the media anymore. I used to laugh when people said that, and when heads of state and very famous comedians would always say, "You can't believe a word the media put out." And I guess really, what have they done for me? It made me realise that if we didn't have media, my opinion, by the way, I believe that there'd be a lot less aggravation, to put it bluntly, than we're in right now. I think the
Yes.
media cover what they want to cover and don't cover what they should cover. That's just me thinking on it. And I'm not a big fan of the media, but you know, there's no such good thing as bad press, is there? You kind of said it earlier on, Martin. Some
Yeah.
people they'll do anything just to get in front of the camera. We talked about that with Eurovision. People would do. They go to the next step, and they keep going up to be different and outrageous. And I guess I'm at that point in my life where I just think I am who I am. I'm like Marmite. You either love me or you don't. If you like me, I'll be your friend. I'll look after you. I'll help you out. I'll do whatever I can. Even I have, I have a reasonably high following of people with my shows, and they will text in the show and what have you. And I get invited to dinner, I get invited to parties, I get invited to get married. I get all these wonderful things. Can't do them all, but if I could, I have the time. It doesn't matter if it's Mr. and Mrs. Jones living in a caravan on the seafront. I'd go and have a cup of tea with them. I'm not precious about the profession. I'm not really. I'm not. I enjoy meeting people like yourself,
Yes.
really lovely people that just care about making life as it is without too much of the like that and too much of the wearing no clothes and that. It sounds like I'm being a prude. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love to see, girls dressed in beautiful clothing, but for me, it's just changed now. Movies years ago, when I watched movies years ago, and the couple would have a kiss, and then they'd open the door and they'd close the door, and it was all up here.
Yes,
You
yes,
can
yes.
imagine what went on now. They show it now. They show graphically almost what they're doing in movies, and how can young people, young girls especially, when they have role models that they look to, how can they not be affected by what we see today on the television and the media?
I mean, that brings to the point that where you have stars meeting for the awards and they don't have functional clothes. I mean, you've got to have functional clothes or
I get,
or or you're in a bit of a pickle, aren't you?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
you know
exactly.
what I'm talking about, that
I
the outfit
do.
where she had to be carried up the stairs and
Yeah. Or they need to have their hands here all the time to make sure nothing's sick. It's about who could be the most outrageous. And, having lived in America for a while out there, you think the UK is on a roll with that, but when you go to America, forgive the expression, you ain't seen nothing till you've been out there, because just when you think you've reached a level of you've seen it all, you
yes.
haven't. It goes another step and another step, and we perhaps never get a chance to see that in the UK with the media. But when you actually live there, or you're there for a period of time, and especially with the people I was mixing with at the time, it's a real eye opener. It really is.
And I suppose when I mean I don't know if you're there are people in two camps that carry on the profession or their job because they love it, and other ones want to sort of forget about it. I mean, is there a particular location that you'd like to live that is the ultimate goal because of the food, maybe the scenery, maybe the climate?
Yeah, you know what, Martin, I would be very honest, and I'm not doom and gloom. When you get to know me, I'm upbeat. I don't care. I'll go out in a pair of shorts and look a mess. I'll get up. I won't even do my. Go into Tesco's. People say, "I tell you," okay, no, it's my brother. And I'll do. For me, I'm not too precious about the fact that I work in front of the TV,
Yeah, yes,
of
yes.
course, but I think when I think about the setup that you have to have, I'm just kind of very much on a level playing field when I go out. I mean, if you see me when I go to a motocross meeting, I know people know me. They look at me and they
Mhm.
and they go, I saw you last night. Was it you? And there I am in a pair of, overalls and rubber gloves on to keep my hands clean. But I don't care, Martin, because life is too short. I'm not trying to preach or anything, but life is too short. Before you know it, you're 20, then it's 30, then it's 40, then it's 50, then it's 60, and then it's 70, then it's 80. And you look back and you think, what have I done? And it's wonderful if you can take with you on your journey of life and give to people along that journey, which I try to do. I mean, my partner, she's in Nepal at the moment in the monastery, and she's doing 5 a.m. in the morning. She's meditation and in bed by 6. And she just phoned me literally before you did, and we were doing a WhatsApp call. And she said, you would love it here. And I said, why? She said, because she knows what I'm like. Whenever I go on holiday, I take with me in my case books and pens and uh, additional money, not lots, but and if I see pickers in the field, I'll stop the car and go and give them money. If I go past a school, I'll stop in a school and give them pens and papers. And I've always done it. I can't help myself, but if I've got a little bit of extra money, that's where it'll go. I give it to people that I see out and about. I've always done it.
So the next section of this interview is probably a bit more interesting for you and I. I mean, we all like to have a nice snack or a large meal or a particular tipple, but in particular, is there a particular dining experience that you've had which is something that you always recollect?
On a subject that we're coming into right
Yes,
now,
it is.
you know, I'm going to say probably a little opinionated, and if I offend anybody watching right now, it's not meant to be. This is my take on life, my take on what I do. I'm vegetarian stroke vegan. Um, I don't eat meat.
Yes.
I was a chicketarian. If that ever heard of a chicketarian?
No, I
Yeah,
haven't, no.
I know I made it up. But I used to eat just chicken breast right up till about 15 years ago. Never had red meat in my life. Never had fish in my life. But um, just had chicken breast, and then I stopped it altogether. Now I don't eat. And for the last 15 years, I've never had any meat whatsoever.
But then, I mean, there must be some sort of dining experience that you've had in relation to being a vegetarian. There's some particular dish or something that has, tantalized you or has been sort of a particular, good on the taste buds. I mean,
Yeah, for
I know,
sure.
oh yes, have your nut cutlet
No,
for Christmas.
yeah, no, I get it, and you're absolutely right. I remember years ago, Mum would
Yeah,
always cook a Christmas dinner. Mine was without the meat,
yes,
and I would have a substitute, whatever it is. But my partner, she's Turkish, and she's been brought up, even though she's what 38 now.
right.
She's been brought up to be. Her family is markets, fresh fruit, fresh veg. Everything is cleaned, everything is
Yeah.
prepared, everything is, and that's how I've eaten for the last 10 years. We probably have eaten out maybe 3 times in a year. I eat at home. I prefer the food she cooks, not because
Yeah.
she's a brilliant chef, although she's pretty good. But the food, I know it's not got any contaminants. The oil is fresh if we use it.
Yeah.
There's no crossover of anything. And as I said to you, food subject for me is one that some of the viewers watching right now are either going to go, you know what, he's an idiot, that guy. But these are my way I live my life, and we are what we eat. You
Yes,
know,
of course, of course.
if you look, Martin, if you go back to look at videos back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, all due respects to anybody watching, people were slim. People were eating fresh fruit and veg. You look at people in 2024 now, the size of people now, the whole structure of the human race has got bigger. And people could say, well, but it's because we've got adverts on TV for fast food.
Yes,
The
yes.
the fast food now is not as good as what many people, and you see it on social media, that an expose of what they've found in, and did you know that? Do you know where I'm going with this? So
Yes, I mean, what is it? 200 years to before Christ, we were foragers, and then
correct.
you only fattened up a chicken, or you may have found a sort of a boar running past you that you killed. So you were lucky maybe once every quarter to have meat, but it's each his own, because I think a lot of people, I don't. I mean, my processed food is probably about 5% of my diet,
Good,
and
good.
at the latest, I'm looking at gut health through nutrition. So a lot of people have had issues with their constipation and other things like that. And then the interesting thing is that what we eat also leads to mental health issues as well.
Correct. Correct.
So, I mean, that is the thing. I mean, they've fortified bread with certain sort of additives, to make sure that people go and get rickets and so forth. But there are so many other things that they could add to actually mitigate mental health, and that has been analysed to death. And it seems that the state want us to be stupid and fat and lazy. So on to the next thing. I mean, do you have a particular traditional food favorite in the realms of non-meat dishes?
You know, I just wanted to, I do, and I just wanted to, before I get on to it, I just want to jump back to what you said there
Yes, yes,
because
yes.
you know I I know there are people out there that cannot control their weight, and it's got nothing to do with what they eat. And I totally understand. I've got friends in that position. I've got friends as well that you're right. What's in the, let's use the word chemicals, enhancers, emulsifiers, or
Yeah, yeah,
extending the life of the food, whatever you want to call it, that they put in it. Not many people realize that if they actually took the time to read what's on the back of the ingredients, if I like, it's like I only drink, I don't have any dairy milk.
yeah,
I have coconut, I'll have almond, I'll have oat, or I don't even have soya because I don't particularly like it. Now, on the back of every one of those, there's probably 20 or 30 production companies that make dairy-free milk.
yes,
But
yes,
actually, if you turn the back round and you read what's on it, you realize that 95% of those are not actually very good for you at all. And I'm not quite trying to promote the brand or anything, but there's only one brand I use, which for me is absolutely spot on without any ease, no rubbish, nothing, which is Rude Health. If you know the brand Rude
yes. I've
Health,
heard of them.
if
Yes,
you look
yes,
at
yes.
it's as good as you're going to get. So if I were to go back 10 years when I met Osla, my young lady, I probably was eating a lot of processed and not such good food because you're working, you're in theatre, you're in television, you're presenting, you're doing a gig here, and you grab something on the go. We know it's a lifestyle, and as many people unfortunately do that now. But since she's come into my life and really transformed how and what I eat, and let me explain what I mean by that. How and what I eat is paramount to how I look, my
Yes,
energy level, how I feel, everything. And I know for some people they don't believe that, but it's actually the more you. I don't go into it. I can't be bothered to read about it, but I kind of learn it from her because that part of her job is she does plant medicine
yes,
therapy. So she's a yoga therapist. So everything that I eat, it's, she will say right now, every day I have warm water with half a lime or lemon squeezed into it. Every morning I have that. There's a certain regime that you can pick up for a pound, 6 lemons from a pound from these. Of course, you wash them, but I'm squeezing the juice. So for me, it becomes like some guys go to the gym, and that is a lifestyle that they have. My lifestyle is, sure, I do a few sit-ups and a few press-ups, but my lifestyle is more about putting the right
mm,
energy into my body, because when you do overnight shifts, which I do, which are, no matter what anybody says, if you've ever had jet lag, I've had jet lag for the last 5 years with the job I do because it's an overnight. So I go to bed at 7 p.m. I'm up at 11. I shower, I go to work, I have to prep for an hour. I'm in the studio to go live at 2 a.m. I finish at 6 a.m. I'm then driving home. I'm home at 8. I sleep till 11 because it's a broken sleep pattern.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
for me, the food that I eat is the fuel of life for
Well,
me.
yes, and I mean on the relevant packaging, they remove one thing and you think, oh, that's really healthy, and they add salt. Or they
Yeah,
say, oh, no added sugar. And what they mean is they replace that with apple sugar. So,
correct.
so you still get that sort of input. Um, I mean, we need to have more. I mean, they were talking about this morning about more education about finance. Need more education about food and what it does to you.
I agree. I
So,
agree. I mean, you know, yourself, you know that it's never easy. I mean, if somebody's got a job where they are kind of office bound and they've sat for a period of time, and I get it, because it's a balance. Life is a balance. You've got to, you know, I try and walk, not today or yesterday's raining, but I try and walk around 10,000 steps a day. Now, that doesn't mean to say I go out my way and I have to do it. It could be just walking around, and I try and get some form of movement every day. I'll try and do maybe, you know, during the day, 50 press ups and 100 sit ups. I don't need to do them, but we have a studio downstairs, which, you know, has got mirrors on the wall, which she uses for her clients. And I go in there and I can, excuse me, I can have a bit of time to myself to work out, basically. It's not a big workout, but enough just to keep the heart pumping and focused.
no, I find that, I mean, you have to have controlled exercise because a lot of people have the exercise and they're just burning muscle tissue rather than fat. And I think
Sure.
there need, I mean, I focus on the breathing exercises because
Brilliant.
that sets my head up and it calms the body down and it slows the heart rate. And I mean, I do that for 30 minutes a day and it sets me up for the day. And then maybe about 2 o'clock, I do a lot of physical stuff because then that takes me through to 10 o'clock at night. Because at the moment, I'm working from 8 till 10 at night,
Wow.
trying to get these projects off their feet. So I suppose the next question could be very simplistic or maybe fairly exotic, but what is your favorite fruit that you always reach towards?
Do you know, I've learned so much with traveling. There are so many fruits from around the globe. Um, and I'm somebody, I'll try it. As long as if it's fruit and, you know, you do it, I always will check. But I'm very lucky, and I'm sorry to keep talking about my wretched girlfriend because it's probably the last thing you want to hear, but that's her job. She's done it now for a long, long time. Her job is dietary, breathing. When you say to people she teaches breathing, they go, "What? Well, I breathe anyway. I'm alive, for God's sake." But they don't get it. You've just got it. You know, and she has private clients where they help them lose weight. Lots of things she does. So why am I telling you that? Because from her, she already knows. And she'll say that fruit is when we go to Thailand, that fruit is a Thai fruit, passion fruit, whatever it might be. And she'll cut it open or prepare it and say, this
Yeah.
is what it will do for you. This is what the benefits from it. These are the what it will do to your immunity. But it's like anything, Martin. Of course, we know that sadly, when you look at fruit now, of course, many of it is enhanced to make it bigger
Yes.
and better, especially strawberries around tennis, Wimbledon time. You see these big strawberries that go, wow, but they're all chemically made to get that big so they look more
Well,
juicy. And
they're all full of water, basically.
yeah, and I know they inject certain animals to make them do the same. You know, and we talked about food and why I don't eat meat, but I may be incorrect on these figures, so please, if you're watching, don't quote me. But I believe I read an article that somewhere around 70% of the world's antibiotics are injected into the animals that we eat. Now, that's fine for the animal, I get it, whatever it might be. But if we are continually eating meat that has got antibiotics in it,
Yes.
our immune system cannot cannot deal with the common things that fly around that would normally we've just spat them away years ago because your immunity would deal with it. But now you take antibiotics, but a doctor will prescribe them to you. But if your body's already full of them and it's not working, you need
Yeah.
stronger. So you're topping up. I know it seems diverse what we're talking about, but when it comes to food, I'm quite passionate about what I eat. I drink a lot of water. I don't drink Coca-Cola, never have done. I don't drink any, forgive me, of that type of stuff. Now, maybe I'm a wretched nightmare to live with. I don't know. Maybe a girl's go, God, I couldn't live with that guy. But you have to. No matter what anybody says, no matter how much you love somebody, no matter how many people around you, no matter how many people will do for you what they think feel because you are maybe somebody of respect, whatever it might be, there's only one person that will actually look after you, and that's yourself. I know you have a partner and they will, but and they care, but you've got to look after yourself in today's day and age, and you've got to look at what you eat, you've got to look at what you drink, and if it means just change, it's like my son. He would eat meat till it was going, and he said, Dad, I get this thing called meat sweat. And I said, what on earth? I've never heard of it. Meat sweat. And he said, I wake up sweating. And I go, well, okay, now he's not vegetarian, but now he'll have 2 or 3 just no meat days a week. And he said, I'm already beginning to feel a difference. And I'm not going to lie to you, Martin, it took me probably 2 years for my body to adapt to cutting out certain things that I was frequently eating, rubbishy food. And I was a bit of a chocoholic, cutting, not all, but cutting some of it out. My body took a while for it to go. It was like getting the old rust off a wheel, and it's now oiled and it's now beginning. And now, I feel great for it.
I mean, with my wife being very close to the food industry because she's a flavorist,
Ah,
I mean, effectively, I know where all the bad habits are. You think, oh, I mean, when I don't know if you drink coffee, they put a little flavor when you hit the actual break the seal, it pumps out the smell. Where if you'd have just left the granules or the flat, the contents of the coffee in, it wouldn't do that. So, I mean, for me, I try to have 2 days where I'm a vegetarian, and
well
then
done.
I only eat grass-fed beef, and because the whole problem with you know injecting animals is it has to be done. It has to be done because they're in such close proximity now, and you have super herds. But then, of course, I mean, it's a bit like the water course. I mean, who thinks it's sound and judgment to flush raw sewage into the streams and the rivers and the oceans? I mean, it's just, what else have they done or signed off of? I mean, in Germany now, there's more insects ground up to actually bulk out the food. So you have to look out for that as well. So, I mean, you may be in favor of it, but it's all about there's too many of us on the planet. We're
Correct.
destroying the water table in loads of different locations. And, we haven't structured ourselves, because for me, we don't have vertical farming. It's all about farm to fork and the smallest distance. But a lot of our simple veg could be manufactured, sort of like a stone's throw away.
Mm.
And nobody's thinking of that at the moment. So
And the thing is, Martin, there's probably people going to watch this now and that don't care. And I have absolutely no issues. I mean, we can't all like the same food. We can't all like the same man or woman. We can't all like the same car. Everybody's different, and I get it. But for me, a couple of points you touched on there is one that the government allowing for this raw sewage to be pumped into numerous waterways. And I'm not here to knock the water companies, but they've got to put more chlorine in to kill what we don't want to be taking. But for the stuff that goes into the sea, whether it be the plastics, whether it be the raw sewage, the fish, the sea life is eating that. And people that are eating that fish are eating that or that, whatever. It's food for thought. So I have another little thing that I do in my food life, if you like. I do a thing called fasting. Now, I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most therapeutic. And again, there'll be people watching this going, this guy's a tree hugger and he sits around a bonfire smoking wacky backy. I don't. And I might hug a tree because I love them. But fasting is, again, just check it for yourself, ladies and gents. Check the facts on how amazing fasting is for the human body. I mean, I do it from a certain time to a certain time. And it's a great way for many remedies. Now, I'm not a doctor and I'm certainly going to make any claims of whatsoever. But if you do your own research on the benefits of fasting, a lot of people watching right now will be shocked at how it can and is proving to fix ailments that they think not able to be fixed.
Yes, yes.
I'll leave it at that, Martin, because I could upset people by going, "Oh, let's still in. What does he know?" But it's a very wonderful way of cleansing the body. It really is.
But I think people do care. I just think that too many of the population are in survival mode.
That's such an amazing point you've raised. I'm not a conspiracist. I'm really not. I'm a few things. I've been called a few things in my time, but that's not one of them. But we're all intelligent. We've seen what's happening around the world. People are now, and I hate the expression, but you may want to class it as waking up. You may want to class it as seeing the light, whatever it might be. People are now just beginning to realize that a lot of the things that are going on, we've got to realize too many people. I'm still seeing people driving in their car on their own with a mask on, and I just think, seriously, surely you can't be serious. But I mean, yeah, people may be watching now. Well, I do it, but you're in a car on your own.
During the pandemic, did you Google what happened in the previous pandemic? They stipulated that masks actually make you iller than not wearing.
Correct. Well, it's like Martin, you're right. A friend of mine who's a nurse, and she was telling me that patients were coming in with nasal back inflammation and problems. You're absolutely right that the mask didn't work. I mean, let's diversify. Sorry, people at home, but let's diversify. I'm an anti-vaxxer. I didn't get vaxxed. Many people at my company were forced into having the vaccination. I know this is a topic where people right now are probably going to hate me for it, but it's fact now. I remember when my young lady and we couldn't travel. We couldn't go to theatres. We couldn't go out. We were ostracized because she said, "Andrew, you are not having that vaccination, whatever you..." And at the time, I wasn't tempted, but I thought, I need to travel. I need blah, blah, all the things that I was worried. I was worried about the pandemic until I watched some videos of some very famous heads of state having an imaginary vaccination. And then they zoomed in and there was nothing in the tube and the needle clearly collapsed. So then you begin to wake up a little bit. And of course, without being negative, I know there are people out there that believe and are people that did die from the pandemic. And for that, I'm truly, truly sorry for that. But it is proven without a question of doubt now, there was not enough research into these vaccinations. And It's now why have AstraZeneca now admitted blood clots, etc., etc.? Why have Pfizer now got lawsuits going on? And sadly, we all, even as an anti-vaxxer, if I have a car accident tomorrow and I need a blood transfusion, I'm vaxxed. So we are all at some point going to have this, whatever it is they're putting in. And we all know, we've heard the conspiracy theories, we've watched it, we've heard it. I've got friends that send me videos and I go, oh, I can't watch it anymore. I don't know is the honest answer. Is it a culling of the population? Is it something they tried? Was it to do with the big, if you like, pharmaceutical companies trying to make massive? I don't know.
Yes.
We'll never know. But follow the money. That's the bottom line. Follow the money, and you'll know what this is all about.
So let's lighten the mood a bit, a little bit of quick fire. So, so tell me about food that you've had on-site catering when you have a particular gig. Is that pretty good, or is it?
No. I mean, it's very easy. When I'm on site, I'll go for pasta. I don't eat eggs. So crazy as it may seem, I love tofu. And I'm a huge fan of it. And the way that we make it here is that she puts a little bit of the yellow one. I can't think of the that makes it go yellow. The
turmeric.
Turmeric. Thank you. It just went out my head. She puts a little bit, so it looks yellow, and it kind of looks like a scrambled egg on toast, but it's not. And I'm hooked on that. I love it. So I would get one of those little cartons and take it with me if I'm a little bit concerned about whether they may have. But to be fair, they will always say to me, do you have any dietary requirements before I go on set? And 99.999% of the time, they will have something for me. It will be just beautifully made, fresh. It can be vegetables, it can be fruit that I just have, and it can be pasta. So many different things that they make for me. So I'm pretty easy, really.
So let's bring it down a little bit. So effectively, you're planning your last meal on Earth for whatever reason. Would it be somewhere that you've dined before, or would it be something completely new and completely?
Well, I thought we were lightening the mood, but let's go back to where we were. Now, it was my last meal on Earth. I lost my father last year in September, which, don't get me wrong, it was a blessing in a way that he went. He was very, very poorly and hang on. But my last meal would be with my family.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, it wouldn't be meat, but I wouldn't really care. We would have the most amazing time with everything and anything that was possible to eat, but it wouldn't be meat for me, as I said, but just a great time with family before that very moment when it was no longer.
So would you sort of be very formal in your outfit, or would you go a bit crazy and have some weird outfit?
I would probably dress up as Dame Edna Everage. No, I wouldn't do. I would probably be just what I call slobbed out. I wouldn't have a tuxedo, anything up to form. I would probably just have a t-shirt and jeans and a pair of trainers and, casual, like it's just another day, albeit my very last day.
And then on the drink side, I mean, would you be fairly conservative and just have sort of sparkling water, or would you have wine or beer?
I'm really boring, Martin. I'm so sorry. I mean, I'm either, somebody's dream date or I'm not, but I don't drink alcohol. I never have. That would be a lie to say I never have. I probably have the equivalent of maybe 3 or 4 beers a year. I go to a function, I might have a couple of sips of a glass of that and a half a sip of whatever. But in total, if you were to add up my alcohol intake over a year, it would be the equivalent of maybe 3 or 4 pints. That would be it. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I don't do any of that. But it would be, in answer to your question, water. Yeah, probably sparkling water. I love it. Maybe with a bit of lemon in it, squeezed in, because I really love that drink. I'm hooked on it at the minute.
So have you tried non-alcoholic beer and wine and
Yes, I have. Yes, yes, I have. To be honest with you, I quite like them. I have had non-alcoholic beer. I don't know if that counts as it is drinking. Does it? I don't know.
well,
Maybe it
I
does.
mean, I drink for the taste, basically. I mean,
Uh,
I don't. I mean, you get a huge plate of stuff, and what I normally try to do is, if I can, I have a tasting menu
oh,
because then you can try, three or four bites and it's done, rather than get a massive sort of meal and you don't get that experience. After the third or fourth bite, it loses the relevant appetite to me.
no, I get that. It's a good point. I mean, obviously there's a thing called starters. We're all familiar with those,
Yes, yes,
of
yes.
course, and I guess that's kind of what you mean. Um, but if we do eat out, I mean, to be fair, we don't eat much. I'm not a big eater. And normally we might share a plate of something together. And I've always done it for 10 years. And it's not about the money. It's not about that. It's
Yeah.
about, I can't put any more in me than what I can eat, and when I'm full, I go, I'm replete now. I can't take a dime more of food in my tummy. So I think food to me is the fuel of life. And if you don't get it right, you feel tired, you feel
Yes.
lifeless, you don't sleep properly. You were spot on, Martin, with, it does have, for many people, it can have mental health issues. Food is, if people could just spend, I know many people do. Some people are right, maybe survival mode, and they don't have the money. But you go to these little shops on the high street where they've got a awning coming out, and they've got all the fruit and veg out the front and that. And you can buy fruit so cheaply now, and it really isn't that difficult to clean it properly before you eat it. And then, just now and then change your diet. And if you wake up that morning and feel, well, feel kind of good today, let's get up, babe. You've only got to look at what you're eating.
So if you had some sort of time machine, or you could have a
Ah,
note that your younger self, I don't know whether it was sort of in secondary school or maybe, in your 20s or 30s, what would you write to inform yourself of where you may have gone wrong or where to perfect your life?
yeah, do you know what? That reminds me of, RuPaul's Drag Race. What would you say to your younger self when he holds a picture up of the drag queen? And it's funny, you look back, but there's so many things I would have changed. But I think the biggest thing I would change now, looking back, and I'm going to use just one word, I wouldn't be so gullible. I,
Oh,
I wouldn't believe people as much. I wouldn't trust people. And it breaks my heart to say that, but I wear my heart on my sleeve. I trust people. I believe people. You already know, we've discussed off air.
yes, yes, yes.
I said, do whatever you want to do, Martin. I trust you 100%. And when you trust people and you doesn't get you anymore, they break that trust or they abuse it. For me, I've had to change in life now. I meet people like yourself. I meet people on my journey, and you just know they're lovely, genuine, honest people like myself. Just trying to make a living, trying to
Yes.
get on. The fact that I work in front of the television camera, it doesn't make me special. It's
Yeah.
just a job. I'm very lucky to have that job, and I love doing it. And there's other people out there that may be, working on a building site, and that's the job. They love it. They do it. But everybody's different, and I think that we have to now. Everybody has to take stock of what they put into their body, and it's not doom and gloom, and it isn't, but it is. It's just. It's all about follow the money. Everything's about follow money, and I heard that cliche when I lived in America, and I it took me probably 10 years to understand what they actually meant by that. And if you actually look at who the company is behind it, and then you'll realize they don't really care about the
No,
end
no,
result so much. They want the revenue, and the revenue is for the board of directors and the big, the big cars they drive around in. But if we were all just to be a little, just 10%, 15, 20% more vigilant on what we pick up from the supermarkets or even our local butcher, who try talking to them more and just see what we eat would be better.
So is there a question that I haven't asked that you wish I had asked?
I talked a lot. I've done your job for you, haven't I? It's food for me is a subject I could talk to you now for hours. In fact, 8 hours we could be talking, and I could diversify into so many different things. But food is life. It's like anything. If you don't charge a battery up, if you have rechargeable batteries, it's flat, it's dead, it's finished. Our body was 90, 80, 70% water. We have, loads of so many good things, but as we get older, as a human being, as we get older, and I'm sorry to break this to you, Martin, that means us, I'm afraid, but as we get older, your body will naturally will now look after the core things, your heart, your lungs, your kidneys. That's its job. It wants to make sure that they are working fine and you can do what you do. What we call the extremities, toes, knees, hair, your legs, your joints, they don't get the full goodness because your body doesn't produce it when you get older. It doesn't. So we have to change what we eat as we get older. And there are so many plant-based remedies that have been around for thousands of years, that will now start to put back the things that your body doesn't create naturally anymore. And I'm not saying cure, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving medical advice, but I believe help tremendously with many of the things we've talked about.
So thank you very much for allowing me to interview.
You're welcome.
Is Andrew Bernard, who is an actor, presenter, singer, and food aficionado. So thank you very much for your time. So yeah, I've got about 1 minute 50. So that was a great conversation. Thank you very much.
Well, from me, Martin, thank you for your time. For all the viewers at home, my opinions are my opinion, but it's been a pleasure talking to you, Martin. I hope we get to do some more of these on any subject you want. I'm always up for chatting to good people.
Well,